police in this area, they love us. For they know we love them. We're not going to break anything down. We're not crazy. We took time, we took years to build it to where it is. We're not going to bring it down and then we have to rebuild it. No justice. What do we want? What do we want? What do we want? When do we want it? The people united will never be defeated. Whose streets? Our streets. Whose streets? Our streets. This is a beautiful day. We are showing the world that we can do more than pray. During the 60s, Dr. King marched. Rosa Parks sat down. But his marching and her sitting down did not change the laws. It was Thurgood Marshall. It was Adam Clayton Powell II that introduced it in legislation. We are saying enough is enough. And so we charge our elected officials, go back to Washington, go back to Albany, go back to City Hall and make some changes. If you are a criminal, whether you wear a blue jeans or a blue uniform, you should go to jail. Stronghold should be illegal across the state of New York and the United States of America. If you call 911 falsely on anybody, it should be made a hate crime. Part of our problem is that the police is in charge of policing the police. We are saying to our legislator, we want legislation to make the Attorney General the special prosecutor to investigate all police involved killing, because no one policed themselves. No justice. And certainly we want to thank Bishop Harding. Thank you, Bishop Harding, for opening your place to receive us today.
We remember Breonna Taylor. We remember Sandra Bland. We remember Trayvon Martin. We remember all of our sons and our fathers who have taken from us. And God, our call in this moment is that we want to breathe. We thank you in this moment, that the foundation of humanity, you breathe the breath of life in us. I lift this up in the mighty and matchless name of Jesus Christ. That name that was lifted up all those years ago. A name that was a minority in the midst of an oppressive Roman system. A name that had warrants when Herod was out for his life. That name that had to go to the hood of Nazareth. That name that was brought up on trumped up charges. That name that was a victim of Roman police brutality. That name that was killed by a governmental system and structure. But that same name that rose on the third day, that has all power even right now. I asked it in the name of, we shall overcome. Lift your voice and sing. We shall overcome. Come on, black sisters, support us. We shall overcome today.
Bishop Orlando Finlater, pastor New Hope Christian Fellowship, right here in East Flatbush, Brooklyn. I came out today. In fact, I was one of the organizers of a church-led march and prayer rally. For several reasons, we are fired up. We're angry, we're frustrated, we're aggravated. Why? Because in the United States of America, black life does not matter. And we know that to be the case because police officers keep killing us with impunity. We recently saw the murder of George Floyd. This officer, he cannot be human to put his knee on a man's neck for over 8 minutes while this man pleaded for his life. They murdered this man. And so we are saying this cannot continue to happen. So beside marching and beside protesting, we are working with the state legislators to make sure that we are introducing legislation in Albany that will become law, that will change the way we do policing here in the state of New York. We can't control the entire United States, but certainly we want to see some changes here in New York. I am excited because on Thursday I was at Grand Army Plaza with members of the Black and Latino caucus who have assured us they're going to introduce this legislation. Now, I know all of them, and I'm friendly with all of them, but if they don't pass this legislation, we should vote them out of office. The time has come where we can no longer support people who don't support our community. In 1999, when Amadou Diallo, a West African immigrant, going into his own apartment, shot 41 times. We marched, we protested. Reverend Sharpton and the National Action Network led a series of civil disobedience. That was the first time I was arrested. And when they arrested those officers, we got excited. We thought they were going to jail. They changed the venue on us, and they were all acquitted. So arresting police officers is only the first step. We need to see them indicted, then we need to see them convicted, and then we need to see them sentencing. And as a matter of fact, police will only stop killing us when they start going to jail for killing us. I'm into protesting, I'm into civil disobedience, I'm not into violence, and I'm not into breaking stores and all that kind of things. But I have to wonder, if the people did not take to the streets like they did, would those officers have been fired, and would they have been arrested? I leave that to you to answer.
This is Pastor Charles Gelber from Clarendon Road Church. We're here making sure we're declaring and helping folks understand and recognize what's taking place. We're in the streets because we have a biblical mandate to be in the streets. I believe that if Christ was here, Jesus Christ over 2,000 years ago was here, he would be on the streets. He'd be on the streets because he always stood up and stood out against oppression, and particularly oppression of those who have been marginalized. Whenever he saw those who were on the margins, he stood up. The Bible lets us know that he declares that he's here to preach good news to the poor, to set forth those who are oppressed, and proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. We're here in that same vein to demand and declare that everything that's oppressed has to get off our neck, that every knee that's been on our neck has to get off. We're declaring liberation and freedom for all people, that Black lives matter, that we have purpose and we have destiny. And as a result of that, that's why we're gathering here, that's why we've marched, and we're not just going to march, we're not just going to gather, we're not just going to pray, we're going to turn some tables upside down so we get economic liberation and justice, where we are able to have our own banks, where we're able to make sure that our entrepreneurs are fully funded, where our educational system is developed fully. We are believing that this moment is literally a revival that's going to take place for people of color, and particularly Black people here in the United States. That we will no longer not just be those who have been oppressed, but we are going to overcome. We are not just going to overcome, but we are overcomers, and we will work towards this continued justice. So I join with the pastors, I join with the community leaders, I join with the organizers to demand justice, but also to demand that the system is set right. We appreciate all of our elected officials, but we are calling on them in this moment to let your voice be known. The Bible lets us know in Psalm 31 that this is your mandate, elected official, to speak for those who cannot speak for themselves, to defend the rights of those who are on the margins. Your call and your responsibility is make sure the legislation happens. Repeal 50A. Make sure that individuals, particularly our Attorney General, is the chief prosecutor concerning police-involved shootings. Make sure that an officer is not able to have 48 hours after a police-involved shooting to go back and get his story straight, but rather is immediately brought together to be interviewed and to be defined concerning what is taking place. These are tangible steps that we are demanding and declaring need to take place.
Hello everybody, my name is Prince with 2 A's, and I'm here to take a stand for myself and youth just like me, because we want change. We want our voices to be heard. We should have had equal rights a long time ago. And I want to change that by taking a stand, fighting against what's happening in the world. Like, talking, like expressing my feelings. We all want to be equal because we should have had equal rights a long time ago.
I'm Felicia McKenzie, and I'm part of East Flatbush Inc. And I came out today because I wanted to join on taking the walk, on letting them know Black Lives Matter, and that I want to breathe, and that I don't think what happened to anybody that died in the hands of a police officer is right.
My message to the politicians that need to do their job in getting change to our communities is that if you're not doing your job, when it's time for elections, we will replace you with somebody who will do the job for you, who will do the job better than you. Because we put you in that position because we had hope in you doing that job. If you're not doing it, then it's about time for you to be replaced with somebody else who's going to do the job. We as the people have the power to vote you out and vote you into that position.
What you have to say to the politicians, they don't have an excuse. They have everything that they need to go back and get the legislations turned, that we will have equal rights, equal justice for all, and prevent police from using chokeholds and kneeing in our young people neck or black people necks.
There's no excuse why our politicians can't get certain legislation passed. The only thing if it's a state legislation and the assembly and state has to work together to make it pass. So we have enough legislators that's African American that can push this forward. So we are dependent on our elected officials. They know this is important. We're seeing them, we're hearing the talk. They put a list of things that they're gonna do for our community, and we're banking on them to push it forward.
We as a church, we have a mandate to join in. We also have a voice. We are mandated to come out and to just support. We are created to give back. We are created not just for ourselves, but we were called to give. We were called to fellowship together, and we as a church, we're just joining in. We're just joining in with unity, because when we're united together, we will stand. So if we are not united, then we will just fall. And as a community, we have to stand together.
Even with Dr. King, pastors were on the street being the moral voice, and black elected officials were in the halls of Congress, in the Senate, in local city councils, writing these bills that is going to help us forward. So it's a multifaceted approach. Faith leaders must do what they have to do, and our elected officials must be held accountable to do what they need to do as well. It will be a wasted opportunity if we don't get real reform in New York City and across the country. But I think that something is different with this. People are consistent, they're persistent, and they're sick and tired of being sick and tired. So now is a perfect opportunity. I don't remember the last time that I have seen the church in Flatbush come out in these numbers to protest against anything. We celebrate, our white brothers and sisters who have been leading the charge, and because to tell the truth, when blacks were marching in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, don't forget Louis Farrakhan and his team did the Million-Man March. That was historic in Washington, D.C. So we have been on the front lines for many years, and so now at this tired moment in our soul, people keep on saying that they're tired. There were nights that I could not sleep last week, tossing and turning just because of all of the trauma that I've seen as a black person, a black man. And so those our allies were actually the white and brothers and sisters who were out there every night relentlessly. I'm not talking about the looters, I'm talking about the people protesting every night. And we can't thank them enough for just pushing us over the finish line, so to speak, in terms of coming together with blacks and whites. Police officers, they're all humans. And we have to remember that police officers are human beings. And we have to treat each individual officer differently. What we're talking about is systems that needs to be torn down. But police officers themselves, individually, we have to deal with them as individual. And so the ones that have real morals, that's just, you speak out when something is wrong. And so I think that they will do that moving forward, because they can see that definitely that they have the community on their side.
Hi everyone, my name is Nicole Langlays, and I'm someone that's very involved in the community. And this is really a travesty that what happened. And I mean, this is the time for reform. This is the time for change. As far as our elected officials, I don't think there's any excuse now, because this is the time to get things done. The world is watching, and we're crying out. We're all upset, rightfully so. And I mean, like, this is the time to really just put our voices out and, I mean, step out and get those legislations passed, because these police officers have to be held accountable. I mean, and there's other things that we need in our community. So, I mean, based on what I'm seeing and based on what we're experiencing right now, this is a time in history, and we don't know if it'll ever happen again in our time. So we really have to get out there. We have to put pressure on our elected officials, you know, pressure on the mayor, pressure on the governor, the president. That's another story. Hopefully he won't be there that long. As far as George Floyd, I mean, the whole world, our hearts were broken, especially mothers. When he cried out for his mother, you know, a lot of people don't know. Over 25 years ago, I have a brother that's epileptic, and he was brutally beaten by police. And it's something that I suppressed. And watching what happened to Mr. Floyd, it brought back up those emotions. As far as what I'm seeing with the police, some of them still haven't learned. I mean, it's video after video after video, and they're still brutalizing, and they're just an over abuse of power. So some of them still have not learned. And I believe that it's a culture, you know, and we need to dismantle them. You know, they're just like a force. Like, I don't know, you know, they're very powerful because of their union. So we need to defund them. We need to dismantle them, and they need to be retrained. Because as I'm noticing is that as we have events, and I was watching some of the protesting that was happening, I was involved in some of the protesting, and I noticed that it's like all of their training goes out the window, because we know that where money is being spent to train them. But as soon as something happens, it's pure chaos, and they're the ones that's supposed to bring order. So as far as them learning, some might have, because I mean, there are good cops, you know, but in between, though, there's a lot of bad cops. And this has been going on for years, you know. So, you know, hopefully they wake up and they learn, and, you know, that this doesn't happen again, because we just, you know, it can't continue.
You know, what's up, you know, as always, Brooklyn always turn up and turn out. And certainly today, it was just so amazing just to see, you know, how the people them come out in a positive way, with a positive attitude, and trying to be a part of the solution. My thing again too, you know, while we're making the change, I have a message also for all my immigrant sisters and brothers. If you're a green card holder, just be careful how you're protesting. And if you don't have no green card, don't even watch the protest. Close your window.